But what I also tell people who ask, what I remind them, is that this contest of ideas, it's not new. America's always had competing stories about who we are and what this nation stands for. The first story says, we the people mean just some of us. That in order to qualify, you got to be the right color, you've got to come from the right family, you've got to worship the right way. It says that even though we got rid of a king, that was the whole point of the revolution, there's still a caste system in America, a pecking order of who makes decisions and who obeys, who gets opportunity and who is obliged to serve. And that story is policed by fear and by force. And it tries to convince people that for their group to win, another group's got to lose. It tries to convince people that if somebody doesn't look like you or doesn't think like you or practice religion exactly the way you do, they must be a threat to your way of life and need to be put in their place. That's how Donald Trump thinks about America. That's what Make America Great Again means. Putting people like him back in charge even when they don't know what the hell they're doing. Now, so that's one story, and that story's been part of America. You can pretend it hasn't been, but you can get rid of, you can try to whitewash school books and go to national parks and say, let's get rid of that, and that sign that says Native Americans used to live here. You can do all that, but that story has always been part of America. And that story isn't even new. It isn't even uniquely American. For most of human history, it's the way society worked. There was a hierarchy, and there were lords, and then there were peasants, and some people had everything, and some people had nothing. There are all kinds of countries that still operate that way. And for a long time, that story of caste and privilege and concentrated power was the law of the land in America. For decades, if you looked like me, you were property. For decades, if you were a woman or a white man who did not own property, you couldn't vote. For decades, if you were an Irishman or an Italian immigrant and you tried to apply for a job, we're not hiring. For decades, if you were Jewish or Asian, don't bother applying to this school. If you were Native American, they didn't even talk about you, even though you were here first. So, but